What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we are going to be looking at the Ryan Leaf draft pick trade. And this occurred during the 1998 NFL draft. Now, this is going to be part one of what is essentially a three-part series in looking at the San Diego Chargers attempting to acquire a franchise quarterback. So obviously, if you know football, you know the name Ryan Leaf. Is it for a good thing or is it for a bad thing? Let's find out. So this trade saw the San Diego Chargers acquire the number 2 overall pick in the 1998 NFL draft in exchange for their first round pick, which would be the 3rd overall, their second round pick, which would be the 33rd overall, a pair of players, and their 1999 first round pick. All of that going to the Arizona Cardinals. So let's start with San Diego. And they chose Ryan Leaf. Now, a little backstory on Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning were the top 2 players going in the 1998 draft. And a lot of people were saying, look, these 2 guys are equal. A lot of pundits were saying, okay, look, you can go Leaf at 1, no one's going to blame you. Ryan Leaf had the higher ceiling, but the much lower floor. He was coming from a small school. Peyton Manning was coming from Tennessee. It's a well-established school. Peyton Manning was seen as the guy with the higher floor, but potentially lower ceiling. Leaf was seen as a potential franchise savior, a guy who could single-handedly carry your team. So there was a lot of debate between Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. And the Chargers, they traded up to number 2, and they'd said, you know what? Whoever the Colts don't pick, we're very happy with. So they end up with Ryan Leaf. And, oh my goodness. So in the preseason, Ryan Leaf looked decent. But it became apparent that his attitude and behavior were going to be a bit of a problem. So he actually ends up missing the last practice of the, training camp. And it was a mandatory practice, so he gets fined. And it's just, okay, whatever. Maybe there was a reason for it. So then we get to the regular season. And they win their first game, but Leaf doesn't look good. And then at the end of their third game, Leaf again has a really garbage game. And there's a reporter that's talking to him in the, the Chargers clubhouse. And Leaf goes on this tirade where he starts yelling at the reporter. He goes, "Don't talk to me, all right? Don't talk to me." And he says some other words that I can't repeat because this is, YouTube and a family-friendly environment. But he just goes off on the reporter. He has to be helped away. He has to be taken away essentially by, Junior Seau in particular was the big name who took him away. And then to make matters worse, he does this apology. So he goes up to the mic. He's reading this apology. And he's just like, yeah, look, I'm sorry. And he crumples it up. He's like, yeah, this is bogus. I don't want to read this. So he throws it in his locker. So, needless to say, performance wasn't looking good and attitude was atrocious. So he ends up getting benched towards November of his rookie year because he was just doing so bad. And he misses all of the 1999 season after suffering a shoulder injury, a torn labrum, I believe it was. So in 2000, at this point, it's really clear that he needs to play well in 2000. And let's just say he ends up getting hurt in week 4 with a hand injury, and he ends up missing a huge chunk of time. But it was alleged that he was out golfing, and that he faked the hand injury so he didn't have to play, and he could just go and relax and golf with his buddies. So yeah, Ryan Leaf he had an attitude problem, needless to say. So he just wouldn't go to practice. He would golf with his friends. And eventually the teams caught on to him, but the team did catch on to him. But yeah, and after 3 seasons, he ends up getting cut. And for the Chargers, he had a 4-14 record. And the more telling stat is while he threw 13 touchdowns, he threw 33 interceptions. So he threw 20 more picks than touchdowns in barely over 2 years. Like what? So let's just say they needed another quarterback, and they had the top pick in the 2001 draft. We'll get to that with our next video. So how did the Cardinals do with their haul? So with the 3rd pick, they went with defensive end / linebacker Andre Wadsworth. So Wadsworth was actually considered to be the top player for any team that didn't need a quarterback. And he didn't necessarily pan out, unfortunately. So he had a few bright moments, but he ended up having knee problems. And the Cardinals ended up getting rid of him after 3 years. That was the last time he was in the league. So injuries just derailed him. With their second round pick, the 33rd overall pick, they went with cornerback Corey Chavis. So Chavis actually, he spends most of his time as a cornerback 3 until his 4th season in Arizona, where he becomes a starter. And he was decent when given the opportunity to play, but he wasn't given enough chance, and he ends up walking, and he gets converted to safety, becomes a Pro Bowler in Minnesota, but not a horrible pick. Now, the two players that they got were running back / kick returner Eric Metcalf and linebacker Patrick Sapp. We'll start with Metcalf. As Metcalf, he appeared in all 16 games in the 98 season, but he was mostly just used as a kick returner. He actually didn't get a single carry. He did get something like 30 receptions during the season, but it was clear that he wasn't the same player he was prior, and he walks after the 98 season. Patrick Sapp, he's a backup for 2 years, backup linebacker for 2 years, 98 and 99, before he also leaves the team. He would actually end up playing in the original XFL. Now, they also got that 1999 first-round pick from the Chargers. And obviously, the Chargers had a rough 98 season, so they had the 8th overall pick in 1999. With that pick, the Cardinals would select wide receiver David Boston. Now, David Boston had 4 solid seasons as a starting receiver with the Cardinals. And he ends up having a Pro Bowl season in the 2002 season. So his rookie, the year's contract expired. And he does pretty well. Like I said, he has a Pro Bowl season, and he had a first-team All-Pro season that year. So he ends up inking a massive contract, 7 years, with the San Diego Chargers. So, again, not bad, but the Cardinals could have done better, but they didn't do as bad as the Chargers. So this was part 1 of the Chargers, futile search looking for a quarterback. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're a Chargers fan, I'm sorry. Have a good rest of your day.